Hello everybody, I'm Isabel Tallysha-Soares. Welcome to today's episode of House of Tallysha. Today we are in Ovar at the north of Portugal for the 5th edition of the Literary Festival of Ovar, and we are very happy to be here. The festival this year is also paying tribute to one of our Portuguese major poets of the 20th century, Sophia de Mello Breyner Andresen. So if you don't know Sophia, check her out, it's worthwhile. And I am very pleased that I am joined today by the talented Isabel Nery. Isabel is an award-winning journalist here in Portugal. She carries out investigative reporting. She is also a literary journalism on her own standing, and she also studies it. She has recently developed a talent for biography, and she has authored what I think is probably the most complete biography of Sophia de Mello Breyner Andresen. Isabel, thank you so much for being here today. Wish you all the success. By the way, Sophia is already a top-selling book in Portugal, so very fine book. Isabel, how did it come about that you wanted and you wrote this wonderful biography of Sophia de Mello Breyner?
Hello, thank you for inviting me to start with. It started with a conversation with my editor. We were talking about the fact that, and this is something that might interest you, that in Portugal non-fiction is not so much valued.
Yeah.
And we were saying, we were discussing why aren't there more biographies? For instance, it's something so common in other countries. And when the conversation went on, and we were like, what biographies could we write? And the editor suddenly asked me, what about Sophia? Wouldn't you like to write a biography about Sophia?
Wow.
And I was I wasn't expecting, because this was just a conversation. And so it started like that. Then obviously I had to think about it and make a plan and study a little bit about her to see what could be worth it. And so it was then quite an adventure, because then I proposed something more journalistic.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But you also have an interest in Sophia, because reading the book, you say that you read Sophia to your books, to your children. You read Sophia on your own. Is this an author that you were also interested, and while you were in the process of studying her, you developed another love for her?
Yes. That's. I think that's summarizes it somehow, because I read them as you say, for my children, for myself, and it was. I think I would have never accepted to write a biography on an author I didn't like.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, you can do it, but I think it wouldn't. I wouldn't have the energy to something like that. So that's why it was so exciting, the idea of writing. I didn't know much about the person, but I knew the work.
Yeah.
And it's a work I go back to in different times.
Yeah, exactly.
And for different situations, because the poems are somehow philosophical.
Yeah, exactly. See, yeah.
And yes, obviously also to my children, because I've always loved the Sophia's books for children, and I've read them for my children even when they didn't know how to read. So and they've always loved it. So there's a connection, I think, that
a companion.
Yeah, and something very beautiful about books that makes you relate.
Yeah, exactly.
In a different way, and so
And to write this biography, I imagine you had to do a great amount of research, and furthermore, you also went to the places where Sophia lived, where she traveled, and you kind of tell a story of your own process of writing when you are going on those travels. Is this also about a self-discovery journey for you, or you were discovering the author and the travel was just part of the research?
Yes, the travel was part of the research. There's no doubt about that. But then travel brings something to you. It's like it's a new you in a way, because you're in places, and when you're in a place thinking and reading a specific author, you live it in another way. So I felt it was important because I was a journalist, but also because Sophia made it very clear that places were very important in her work. But my presence, it wasn't easy to decide that if I should be present because the biography is about Sophia, and that's the most important. There's no doubt about it. So I didn't want to overcome somehow the importance of the author. That was not the point. And actually, I wrote those more experienced parts, and then I took them off, and then I put them in again, because I was like, this is stupid, this is nice, this is interesting for people who are reading. So why am I putting this out? It's no, it has to be there.
And it is here because we relate to
because
that.
that's one of the techniques of reportage. It's making, and literary journalism, making people feel as if they were there. So isn't this, my question and then my answer was, isn't this important for someone to understand Sophia, to know more about Sophia? And that's, biography is about that, to show an author in another perspective. So would I just throw that away if I had this possibility?
Exactly.
So I felt it would be stupid, so I decided.
And do you see more? We are talking about the process of the journalist and the way that you are researching and going to the places. Would you say that what is here is more the Isabel Nery, the journalist, or a new form of Isabel Nery, the biographer? How would you feel as a writer? Because this is writing, and so you are a writer. And you are a writer as a journalist, or you are a writer as a biographer?
I think it's, I would say it's more or less the same thing in this sense. It's non-fiction, and it has to be completely focused and justified. I cannot say something about a person I am writing about without saying where. So I have to say the sources. I have to say, is it a document? Is it an interview? Is it so? And that's how we work in journalism. So in that way, biographies are very journalistic in that sense. That because it's non-fiction, but it also has to be interesting to read. So in a way, literary journalism. And on the other hand, facts. So it has to be true. There are also biographies written in a novelistic way. That's another area, so to speak. I wrote it in factual terms, so as I would write a journalistic piece. Of course, then the style has differences. The sources are then just specified in the end, and not during the text as in a normal news article. So there are differences, but the core, I think it's very similar. Some people say the only people who write good biographies are journalists. Of course, I wouldn't say that so much. I wouldn't say so much, but I understand the point. It has to do with this idea of being very rigorous and very factual about what we are writing about.
True. And of course, Isabel is also a very reputed journalist in Portugal, and I couldn't overcome that in this interview and to ask you about your journalistic output. You have awards for in-depth reporting, and I am considered a very important piece by Isabel, one that touched me a lot as a reader, is her investigative journalism of women behind bars. What's at the core of your journalism, Isabel?
Of what I do or what I like to do?
Yeah, I was in the direction of what do you like to do? What triggers you to do these kinds of investigative work?
Yeah, it's a very interesting question, because I ask myself that a lot of times. I think it's that this passion about reality. I sometimes say to people, because in Portugal, non-fiction, so novels are much more important than non-fiction. So I ask myself, why don't I write? Because it's not. I'm very inspired by reality. Reality, it excites me in good ways and bad ways sometimes. But and then not only that, because I could have that feeling, but then okay, be okay with that. But I then need to tell people about it, and in a sense also the idea of changing a little bit in the sense of giving other worlds to the readers. It's a little bit like that in the book about the prisoners. It's a world, a very closed world. People don't know anything about it. They know about a very serious crime, something that went on TV, but then what happens inside the prison, they have no idea. Sometimes I think they feel that they just don't want to know, but also when they read about it, they understand, and I think they have different points of view about an issue that's usually very closed. Bad people are there and we are here and that's it. So, and if you read, you see other. It doesn't mean to understand criminal. It's not that, but you see other perspectives of that reality, and I think that's something that gives me great pleasure.
I read an important scholar of literary journalism, Sue Joseph, saying that literary journalism and this kind of journalism that you actually practice and do brings out the quality of empathy. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely, absolutely. That's actually being studied nowadays by neurosciences, and it's very important, this topic, that I think it's not. We don't have the conscience of it, and it would be important for schools, for instance, is that children who read more stories, so we're not talking about non-fiction, so stories, are more empathetic. This is being studied, this is being proved, so and I think this is the most important thing about literature, is that we can, as I said before, connect other worlds, feel other worlds without being in that world, because we don't want to go to prison. We don't need to go to prison to understand or to learn a little bit about what's going on there. So it's a way of living things too, I think. So it's the beauty of it.
The beauty of it, yeah. And thank you very much, Isabel, for joining us. I wish you all the best with your Sophia. I look forward for your future journalistic projects. Thanks for watching. This is Isabel Tallysha-Soares. You know, if you enjoy these kinds of content, meet us as House of Tallysha. Subscribe the channel. As for me, you know where to find me. I will be waiting for you.